Welcome back to our continuing series on topics in microeconomics. So we have proceeded through 33 topics so far, and we're going to cover topic 34 now. So let's get into it. I've already opened up the lectures, objectives, exam 3. It's right here. We have covered, I guess this is exam 2. Let's go up and put in the URL exam 3. There we go. So we have covered 32 and 33, and now we're going to do 34 this evening. This will conclude not only chapter 9, but the whole series of lectures that started when we tried to derive the supply curve from basically 26. So we've been on a long and winding route to derive these supply curves and finally get to the culminating lecture on the derivation of the supply curve and putting together supply and demand. So 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, and 34, which is this topic, all of those to get to the end. And we deriving the supply curve, which we've actually done in the previous two. But now we're going to talk about allocative and productive efficiency in a competitive market. All right. So let's go back and take a look at this topic, Market Supply Curve and Above Normal Profits, Chapter 9, lecture notes, and plus PowerPoint. So we're going to be using the PowerPoint to lecture about this topic. Why does the industry supply curve shift to the right when positive economic profits appear? And we're going to talk about business firms expanding and other firms entering, and that will shift the supply curve to the right. And by the way, we could have gone the opposite direction and say, why does the industry supply curve shift to the left when negative economic profits appear? So, and I'm wondering if I shouldn't do that. No, I don't think I will do that. So then part B is illustrate by drawing the industry supply and demand curves and the representative firms' average cost, marginal cost, and marginal revenue curve, starting with the situation where the representative firm is earning above normal profits. We will do that in this. And we'll show what happens when the average or representative firm is making above normal profits. And then part C, in what way does society benefit from having industries in long-run competitive equilibrium? And we'll talk about that, which we've already talked about back in 16C, which was the very, well, it wasn't quite the very first topic, was it? For the second exam, I think we had to talk about market disequilibrium in 15, but then in 16, we talked about how markets result in allocative efficiency and technical efficiency, at least competitive markets. And then in 17, we talked about problems that competitive markets might face, like they might not be competitive, or they might have externalities, or they might have asymmetric information. There might be free riders, those type of things, public goods. But here we're going through the whole economic theory of why markets are thought to be more efficient than almost any other way of doing things. Well, I guess as Churchill said of democracy, it's one of the worst ways to govern yourself, except when compared to every other way. So market systems are the worst way to allocate resources and income, except for every other way mankind has ever devised or thought of or had organically grow through evolution of society. So This is the culmination of economic theory from a liberal point of view, liberal from the 19th century, not the 20th century meaning of the term. And let's get down to it, okay? So here we would be going into MindTap Applia assignment, Applia assignments over exam 3, week 13. We've already done lectures over 32 and 33, and now we're going to do it over 34. You'll find the lectures that I've done, the recordings that I've done in these folders. There it is. That one's 43 minutes long. Wow. All right. Let's try to make this one a little shorter. I'm not sure I can. Such an important topic. And so we open it up. And I've already opened this PowerPoint. So I'll just go down and open it here. And of course, I leave, I'm not going to do the slideshow because I can't use these little drawing symbols, or at least not efficiently. All right. Then I will want to probably make notations as we go through here, like I do all the others. So let's begin. So, as I said, this has to do with resource allocation. And in fact, that's how we define microeconomics at the very beginning of the semester, the study of how societies allocate scarce resources. And we really focus on capitalistic market systems, that is, systems with private property and contract, and where prices are formed by supply and demand. We did almost cursorily look at planned societies, but just to set them in juxtaposition to what we're doing here in this course. It would be interesting to do a whole thing on socialist systems. So let's continue here and say, way back in question 13b, and remember 13 was about the law of supply, and then B was the variables that caused the supply curve to shift one way or another. And I have those listed right here. These are the shift variables. So let's look at them. The prices of inputs, labor, and other resources, changes in technology, the number of sellers. And this one is going to be a big one here. Expectations of future prices, taxes and subsidies, government actions, basically. Hey, like shutting down the whole economy to fight against the coronavirus. I don't think this taxes and subsidies quite covers it. I had always put this as governmental actions, right? And so what's happened with the coronavirus? Yeah, for many things, they're just shifting the supply curve back like this, right? So, and then government restrictions. Oh, well, there it is. They put these two together. There was another variable, I think, that we had here. I had another couple variables. Well, I would just count this as one. I'm going to count it as 5. Just governmental actions. And then 6 would be like natural events. Maybe the coronavirus could be called a natural event, but when we went over it in the lecture, I was thinking mainly of earthquakes, tidal waves, droughts, floods, tornadoes, that type of thing. Maybe good weather, growing weather for agriculture. And then 7 had to do with the prices of substitutes in production. And here I just ask you to think of the example I used early on, and I think we talked about a PPF, a production possibilities for curve for a farm, and they can grow cotton or maize on their, let's say, 1,000 acre farm, and it's sort of, this is a PPF for it. And so if they're producing right here, this combination, that amount of maize and that amount of cotton, then if we're looking at the quantities supplied of maize, let's say, then if the price of cotton goes up and we want to grow more cotton, the supply of maize will decline because the farmers can get more money by growing cotton. All right, so that's what number 7 is. All right, so yeah, I think that was it, that we had 8 altogether if we included the price of the good itself, which is right here. All right, but these 7 are shift variables, and we are mainly concerned with this one right here. As the number of sellers or firms increases, it will shift the supply curve out. Okay. Okay. Competitive industry and the representative firm. I thought I'd put this in because I did have it in the question. So in the slides that follow, panel 2 and 6 show the demand and supply curve for the competitive industry. Let's jump down and take a look. So there you go. Here is panel 2, and here's panel 6. So basically we're going to have, it's in long run equilibrium at D1, S1, and right here. And then for some reason the demand curve jumps up for this particular good. And of course, the price jumps, the firm makes profit. Other firms enter, shift the supply curve out. As the supply curve shifts out, the price drops, and the firm is back. The average firm is back producing the same quantity it had at the beginning. But still, what I'm talking about, this is the panels for the industry as a whole, these supply and demand curves. The supply is the addition of all the individual firms. These panels 3 and 7 are the representative firms panel, where this is just one average firm out of the whole industry and how it's impacted. So we go back up. So panels 3 and 7, so marginal revenue, marginal cost, and average total cost curves for a representative or average firm in this industry. And then I put in here something so true. The textbook didn't have average total cost curve drawn in here, so I did it by hand using a pad, which I'm still not that expert at using. So the average total cost curve was drawn by me, and it looks like it's not quite as nicely drawn as the marginal revenue and marginal cost. All right. Yeah, you can see here. It's not too bad, actually. It's okay. So let's start. So the industry starts in long-run competitive equilibrium, and that would be right here, okay? P1, and I know they didn't do this, but let's put it here. And Q1, okay? Okay, for some reason, market demand rises, so it shifts out to the right. Okay, so this is going to push the price up, and it will also increase the quantity, right? And so what's now going to happen is that the marginal revenue that the firm faces is going to jump from P1 to P2, MR1 to MR2. Instead of producing Q1, this firm is going to produce Q2. And so the revenue is P2 times Q2. And I tried to show the cost here. I know it's not that great, but I'm using C2 as a cost per unit. And so basically economic profit equals total revenue minus total cost, and we're doing it at P2, which is the same as MR2. And so, of course, we can say total revenue is P2 times Q2, and total cost is the cost per unit, C2, times Q2. We can factor Q2 out. And so the profit per unit is P2 minus C2 times the quantity. So the profit is this red cross-hatched area, and that is your above normal positive economic profits. And this is, gosh, it's like I'm a socialist here. This is like blood in the water for sharks. Boy, people see that. Capitalists see that, and they want to make those above normal profits by delivering to people the things and services they want. And so other firms start coming in. They see the positive economic profits, and it's an incentive to join the industry. It's an incentive for existing firms to expand. So what happens, of course, is the demand curve moved out, and we moved up here. And then as those other firms move, of course, the supply curve moves out, and it continues moving out until the price falls to here. Let's see what happens to quantity here. So before the industry was disturbed by this increase in demand, we were at Q1. And then, because of the increase in demand and the increase in output from Q1 to Q2, the industry produces Q2, but then more firms come in, increasing the supply, and we end up at Q3. We'll come back to this in a moment. So basically, by the other firms coming in, they push the price back down. And so basically, the price goes back to where it was, P1. And actually, this would be like the third price. But we'll just use P1 because of the increase in supply. So the firm, again, adjusting marginal revenue to marginal cost, which is here, is back at producing Q1. So at P1 equals marginal revenue 3, the profit is Q1 times P1 minus C3, and C3, the cost per unit, and the price are the same, so that's 0. So the economic profit is 0. All profits have been squeezed out as additional firms have come in and competed away the profits, okay? And the individual firm's output has dropped, okay? But notice that the industry's output has increased. There's a big plus here. And so what's happened is that resources have been brought into this industry from other industries, perhaps industries where the demand had fallen. People didn't want those goods and services anymore. So those resources were eager to find a higher returns in this industry. And so the market reallocated these resources without any government official directing this reallocation. to produce these goods and services, okay? So there's been an increase in the flow of resources to this industry, but the average firm is back at making zero economic profits. Now, I usually indicate with a little asterisk here that average total cost includes the normal rate of return or profit. Let's say 12% return on the value of capital is opportunity cost of keeping capital in its present employment. And remember, economists for economic profit want to include all opportunity costs, including the opportunity cost of keeping capital employed where it's presently employed. So while economic profit is zero, accounting profit could be normal, very nice return, let's say of 12% on the value of capital. Anyway, what a nice little theory. And I know there's many a slip between the saucer and the lip, as John Maynard Keynes, a tea sipper from Great Britain, once said, just meaning that, you know, the model looks perfect, but there's some little bumps along the way. But it's amazing how the market does outperform the government in producing goods and services and making people's lives better off. So that is the story we're telling here, okay? And it is called, basically, it's a part of classical liberalism that arose in the 1800s and pretty much ruled in the latter half of the 1900s before socialism and progressivism and statism took hold. So, and there's been a struggle between the two since. So I guess, interestingly enough, before I move on, in the 18th century, the 1700s, and maybe even the 1600s, there was a struggle between markets and the ancient regime, the landed aristocracy, which was supported by the church. But by the mid 19th century, in the 1800s, capitalism, at least in Western Europe, had come out on top. The ancient regime, landed aristocracy, had been vanquished, and then holding pretty much the same values, not quite, but as the landed aristocracy, the socialists and progressives came to oppose capitalism. I suppose if you're a Marxist, you see this as the dialectic working itself out. But there you go. This is the theory of why markets do better than government officials in making people better off. Okay, so here we go. Here again we have the market, the industry market, and the firm. And remember, the supply curve is approximately the sum of the marginal cost curve, and the demand curve is approximately the sum of the marginal utility curve. And of course here we have equilibrium and the social surpluses in here. And over here in the long run, the average business firm is producing at zero economic profit, even though there is, say, a normal accounting profit, but also at the lowest point of both the short run and the long run average total cost curve, okay? So when price equals marginal cost, or marginal revenue equals marginal cost, the firm has no incentive to move away from the quantity of output at which this occurs, Q1. No firm in the industry does. So this is a quantity being produced. And basically what we have here is allocative efficiency. And because at that point, we're at the minimum point of both the average, short-run average and long-run average total cost curve, there is no incentive for the firm to change its price. I guess this is allocative efficiency right here. And this is what we might call productive efficiency, or sometimes technical efficiency. In other words, not only are the resources going to where they're needed, allocative efficiency, they're being used productively. Why? Because business firms want to earn a profit. They want to go where people are willing to pay, and they want to try to use the resources they're using as efficiently as possible to make that profit, okay? And so here we go. Long-run competitive equilibrium, zero economic profits, though accounting profits are greater than zero. They are normal. In other words, average. I'm not sure what the average is now, but I'll give you an estimate, 12% return on value of capital being used, okay? So, and the efficient plant size is being used, and output allocative efficiency has been reached. So here we have more on resource allocative efficiency. Producing a good, any good, until price equals marginal cost ensures that all units of the good are produced that are of greater value to buyers than the alternative goods that might have been produced, okay? So the resources are switched in to produce this good because that's where the most profits are produced. A firm that produces the quantity of output at which price equals marginal cost is said to exhibit resource allocative efficiency. For a perfectly competitive firm, profit maximization and resource allocative efficiency are not at odds. In other words, what is that saying the socialists have? Production should be for use, not profits. Oh, how evil. But the curious thing is that profits make business firms produce what people want. If the economy is nationalized, all the private property is taken, well, then it's only what's produced is what the socialist politicians want produced. And they want power. Do you think they're going to produce the goods that you want? Look around at the history of them. It's just not happening. Yeah, they sprinkle pixie dust in your eyes and say they will, but No, 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 no. Never has been done. Okay? It is a good question why so many people want to come to the United States and capitalist countries and turn them into socialist ones. But that's not a question we can answer. So, resource allocative efficiency. Society experiences resource allocative efficiency with the workings of the market. Resources flow to where they are needed the most, guided by profit. Society maximizes its utility welfare by allowing resources to move where they are needed the most. Okay? And then productive efficiency. This is a situation that exists when a firm produces its output at the lowest possible per unit cost. And there you go, at the lowest ATC. The perfectly competitive firm does this in the long run. Not only are resources allocated to where they are, and I should have had needed the most, but they are efficiently utilized there. Oh, what a beautiful little story. And, I might just add one more thing to this. I hope I can draw on it. Let's add this one. So if all the markets are in equilibrium, again, we'll just redo this. This is like from 16C. And so this is your average good where you have the price per unit here and also some measure of cost, right? And price. And you have quantity here. Demand, which is equal approximately to the sum of the marginal utility benefit, and supply, which is equal approximately to the marginal cost of the firms there. And so right here, society, is basically setting, I should put the sum of the marginal cost curves there. So the sum of the marginal cost will equal the sum of the marginal utility at PE and equilibrium at PE QE, all right? And basically we can say social welfare is maximized by letting a market system work, okay? And of course, let me see, how can I do this? I think like this. This is producers surplus, and then I guess I can go like this. This is consumers surplus, and if we add these two together, we get the social surplus, and that's being maximized right here. Woohoo! Okay, that's the end of our lectures on supply and demand. The next topic we're going to turn to will be in the factor market. So I'll meet you in the factor market with topic 35. So long till then.